Hi, I'm self-absorbed, I am insecure, I lack humility, empathy, and money. My name is Cliff Prang, I'm an actor, I'm a comedian, and like many of you, I'm also a failure. They say that an actor should not expect to book more than 5% than everything that they audition for. So if you're going out for, let's say, 100 auditions, that means you're booking about half. Similarly, a comedian should not expect his audience to laugh at more than 5% of his math jokes. So, yeah. I'm crushing those numbers right now. I remember lamenting failure at a local small business networking meeting, and I was talking to a car salesperson, and she was like, "I'm rejected every day." And then another woman piped up, and she's like, "I'm a telemarketer." She's winning at losing. So in a world where failure is guaranteed, what do we do to protect ourselves from yielding to the crippling self-doubt, the crippling fear that keeps us from engaging? My proposition is that we shift our focus, that we don't focus on what we have to lose, rather we focus on what we have to give. Focus first on others. I used to have a real job. I used to serve as a community development coordinator at our local food bank, and I felt sheepish walking into a business, a church, or a school because they knew and I knew that all I wanted was their money. But until I made it about them, I figured out that I could prioritize their needs. You see, they were looking for tangible connections to the community, and I had those to offer. They were looking for team-building opportunities, and I could facilitate those. They needed purpose for their profits and their efforts, and that's exactly what I was able to do. When I was able to prioritize their needs ahead of my own, it was then that we were able to forge true partnerships and impact our community together. And it's not about manipulating the results. It's not about using people. People are not commodities. But when I focused first on serving others, that's when I got over myself. When I focused first on serving others, that's when I was able to find fulfillment. As much as I loved that job, though, it eventually had to come to an end. And it all started with an injury, a football injury. F is for football, okay. I was standing on the line. Quarterback said, "Hut." I pushed off, and my Achilles tendon ruptured. I was on the ground. I was like, "Ah." The guy who was covering me heard it blow and was like, "Awesome." My wife offered me empathy. She was like, "Aw." And then I showed her my bloody stitches after the operation, and she was like, "Ah, you can communicate a lot of emotion with those two letters, A and W, just like the burger. You get it in your hand, you're like, oh. You put it in your mouth, you're like, oh. And then half an hour, you're on the toilet going, ah. I was off of work for about 3.5 months recovering, and when I went back, I struggled to re-engage. My wheels were spinning, and so I went to my boss, Mr. Dave Murray. I'm like, "Dave, you got to tell me what to do. You got to make sure I do it, or it's not going to get done." He's like, "Cliff, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Yeah, you do, but you're too chicken to do it." And I cried. Not because he spoke harshly with me, but because he called me out. He knew me. I was on the couch dreaming about a life of performing. And he knew that about me. He seen me perform. He knew that's what my passion was. But he needed a community development coordinator, and yet he chose to serve me first. He released me to pursue my job, my passion, I should say. But then he promised me a job should I need to come back. He served me first. And that was awesome. It's funny, though, when my kids realized that I no longer worked at the food bank, they were confused. They're like, "Dad, you don't help people anymore?" I was like, "Come here, guys. Daddy hates people." So in the same way that I needed to figure out how to serve others when working at the food bank, ironically, I also had to make acting and comedy not about me. Comedian Leland Clausen says that the moment an audience senses that you expect something from them, that's when you begin to lose them. In other words, the audiences do not exist for my validation. I exist for their entertainment. I've chosen to apply this by adding the values of celebration and inclusion. Stay positive. I punch up instead of punch down, which means I lean into self-deprecation. I lean away from mockery. It's impossible to please everyone, but you can certainly try to serve them. You can try to include them. And one of the major ways that I've done this in my career is by excluding the F-bomb from my act. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. If a joke is funny, it's funny. But my aim is to include as many people in the process. I want to reach as many audiences as possible. And those audiences that I do reach, I want them to feel free, released to enjoy and to laugh. And in acting, Jeb Beach teaches his acting students that for the actor, it is not about them. The actor's job is to serve the process, is what he said. You prepare thoroughly, you perform your best so that the casting agents have an option to present to their clients. It's a multi-million-dollar industry with many moving parts, and the actor has the least at stake. Or as my father, George Clooney, stated once in an interview, stop laughing, I miss him. Hi, Dad, if you're watching. He said the actor goes in with nothing, and worst case scenario, he leaves with nothing. So if I give everything and expect nothing in return, that's when I can find the deepest fulfillment. Because if it's about me, if it's about getting the gig, the glory, the money, the fame, if that's what I'm in it for, then I risk the chance of losing 95% of the time. But if my focus is to serve others first or cause bigger than myself first, then I'm actually taking a chance at potentially winning 100% of the time. That's the goal. And the interesting thing is, that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear has always been that I would be selfish. See, it's a much nobler purpose to say, hey, how can I help you? As opposed to saying, hey, look at me. But here's the thing about fear. The thing about fear is that it's selfish. Not the feeling of fear. We all feel the feeling of fear, but the action of fear. The moment that we allow self-preservation to manifest, we rob the world around us from the opportunity to experience our passions and our ideas. We steal from them, and we also rob ourselves the opportunity to feel fulfillment and to live a fulfilling life. We rob ourselves, and we rob the world around us. I remember going in for an audition one time, and the action was, it was a backyard barbecue, birthday party, and the action was to walk in, I was a dad, walk in with your plate of burgers, you trip, you drop the burgers, and then it specifically stated not looking for a goofy dad. So I walk in, I've got the plate of burgers, I trip, I fall, I drop the burgers, end of audition. Now, my favorite part of the process is after driving 75 to 90 minutes from Chilliwack to Vancouver for my 75 to 90-second audition, I then get to drive 75 to 90 minutes back to think about everything I did or did not do in said audition. So let's recap. I walked in, I tripped, I fell, I dropped the burgers. Wait, did it say fall in the original action? Did it say fall? It didn't say fall. I fell. No, it said trip. It didn't say fall. I fell. I fell and I look goofy. By falling, I'm a goofy dad. I'm a goofy dad. I failed. Now, even though I've chosen to exclude the F-bomb from my stage performance, I have not excluded the F-bomb from my drive home to Chilliwack. And this is why I'm implementing these strategies. The goal is to get myself out of my head and to get my head out of myself. It's about mental health. I don't remember making a joke. But I was beating myself up. I beat myself up that whole way home. I beat myself up for days after that until I got a call from my agent that I had a call back. They liked what they saw. They wanted to see more. I went into the audition room, and now the director was there, representatives from the Ad agency was there, clients were there, and also, what was there? A crash mat. They didn't want me to fall, they wanted me to fly. Here's what I have learned about sacrificing yourself for the sake of serving the process. When you give everything, it really hurts. I didn't know it was going to hurt. But when my head hit the table, and my table hit the ground, and my bell was rung, they said, okay, let's do it again. We did it another dozen times. Different angles, up close, wide, this time with more juice. But I had to keep going. Why? Because I was there to serve, and I hadn't gotten paid yet. My son's going to need braces. Here's the payoff for me, though. This was the payoff. When I finally saw the commercial, it was narrated by Morgan Freeman. Yeah, right? Cool. And that's the goal, isn't it? To be free? Freedom from fear, freedom from regret. That's the goal. You want to be free, you have to serve. I had the opportunity to serve at the TED Global event in Vancouver. I don't know. Sounds pretty fancy. But I was moving signs and fetching coffee. That was my job. I was an event assistant, and we were prepping for this one event. It was like a speed dating-esque networking event, and we were expecting about 100 people to show up, and about 9 people showed up. I'm not good with numbers. I don't know if you've experienced that here today, but about 9 people showed up. So my supervisor stressed out. She was freaking out. She didn't know what to do. So I volunteered to address the group. Gathered everybody in a circle. We were just going to go around, everyone say their names, and then we could break up and mingle and talk to whoever we wanted to talk to. No big deal. So I started. I'm like, hi, I'm Clifford. I live here in beautiful British Columbia, and I'm an actor, professional actor. And then I said, well, I should qualify. I'm making a living doing auditions, because at that point I hadn't booked anything yet. So I said that, everyone laughed, I broke the ice, and my gift to them was that after hearing my testimony, they would all feel like stars. And they were stars, they were. We had inventors, Disney Imagineers, but the guy that I want to highlight for you right now goes by the name of Benedictus Vanagas. He's a rally car driver from Lithuania. And the moment that we had finished wrapping up this introduction circle, he made a beeline right for me. And he's like, Cliff, you speak down to yourself. You should not speak down to yourself. You communicate, you talk, it's a big skill. Keep your chin up. And that's a good Lithuanian accent, so shut up. And I explained, it's like, I was making a joke, it's self-deprecating, break the ice, explain that. And then I asked him about his arm. He had a cast in his arm, and he had just finished the Dakar Rally, which is a 13-day off-road, cross-country race in some of the world's toughest terrain. The whole thing started in South Africa, now it's in South America. It's a grueling race. And in the first leg, he lost power steering. And the torque and the tension was so strong in his arms that when his tire hit a rut, the force snapped a bone in his wrist. And he got to a checkpoint, and they did an x-ray, and the doctor confirmed, yeah, there is indeed a broken bone. It wasn't just one broken bone. He had 3 broken bones in his wrist and 2 severely damaged tendons. And the doctor said, you got to stop. And he's like, but I've come too far. And he was laughing as he was explaining the story to me. He's laughing. He's like, no, it's funny. But then I was like, ah! It was very funny. But he followed through. You want to experience freedom, you got to follow through. And the thing is, he wasn't just following through for himself. He had his own personal goals, but he was racing for his team, his sponsors. He was racing for his family, his fans. He was representing his country. He followed through because his purpose was bigger than his pain. Not only did he follow through, but he finished. And not only did he finished first. He finished first in the privateer category, which is awesome, but you know what? It doesn't matter to me whether he won or lost. The next year, he didn't even complete the race. But that doesn't matter to me either, because what I will never forget is that he took the time to walk across the circle and encourage me. Because putting yourself out there again and again and again, it hurts. But you got to know why you're doing it. If your purpose is bigger than your pain, you can follow through. Absolutely. And it doesn't matter who you are. You can have a severe impact on the people around you. We exist to make the world around us better. We exist for impact. We're all going to experience pain. We're all going to fail. We're all going to be rejected, whether in sport, relationship, creativity, career, in every aspect of our lives, we are going to experience pain. But I believe instead of shrinking back, allowing fear to cripple us, hiding, stopping, retreating, we need to engage wholeheartedly, sincerely, for the sake of others. Focus first on others, and you can overcome the fear of failure. Focus first on others, and you can experience fulfillment and freedom. You know what? Or don't. Don't do it. I don't care. Be selfish. Reject my ideas. Reject me. I'll be fine. F is for fine. Thank you so much. Thank you.